Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Marvel Movie Talk right here exclusively on Geekscape. Very excited to be talking Marvel this week. Maybe more excited than I've been in about 6 weeks to be here talking about Marvel. All kinds of things going on, some news. We got a trailer, and we will be ranking our favorite and least favorite Disney Plus Marvel Studios shows. You do have to specify. I don't want anybody kicking the door in with a cloak and dagger or run away. None of that. All right. I don't need to hear about Inhumans. We're just talking about the Marvel Studios Disney Plus shows. That's all we're talking about. But first, let me introduce our compatriots on this mission. As always, I'm Christian Bladt. Next to me is Nate Miller. Nate, thanks for being here.
Yo, thanks for having me.
And Michael, I assume you've watched episode 7 of Secret Invasion before we start today's show, and you're ready to share your thoughts on it.
Don't with me, Scroll.
Oh, that would be like a nightmare. Oh my gosh. And Michael Shirley, of course, is here, but our friend Daniel Drew is in the chat. And look at the lengths he's going to be here with us. He's via a Starbucks internet because his house has no internet. Aww. Daniel, I appreciate that you put us ahead of working utilities in your home. That instead of getting that sorted out and fixed and making an appointment and everything, you're here to talk to us. So before we dive into that topic, I think that the most relevant news, while it's not Marvel proper, it is Marvel adjacent. I can't remember what we decided or what they told us that the Sony universe of Marvel projects is called. It's not SCOTUS, but it's like, it's an abbreviation like that. And we definitely got some mileage out of making fun of it. But Sony, in a tweet, and we've got an article that goes with it, they let us know via the Hollywood Reporter last week that they are reshuffling their release schedule. And part of the reason, I guess, is the Screen Actors Guild strike, the Writers Guild strike, but also in some cases, let's just say there's one of these movies we're going to talk about where I don't think we're seeing our last schedule move for them.
Bad Boys 4?
Bad Boys 4, I think, will come out right on time on June 14th. If I had to guess, Martin Lawrence will be doing press by himself to promote Bad Boys 4. Just a hunch. But least significant is probably Venom 3 releasing July 12th, 2024, because that was already a ways off. In terms of our purview on this show, most interesting is, second most interesting, Kraven the Hunter, which, look, they've got one of those Twitter hashtags where you can see a picture of him with it. So they've already prepaid for that, even though it's now not going to come out.
X hashtags?
Thank you for correcting me, Nate. You know what? That's I can't even find my bell. Oh, here it is.
Ding.
Does it bother anybody else that that Kraven thing is in there and then it totally ruins it up being in chronological order?
Yeah.
That really messed with my brain there for a little bit.
I'm looking at it now and I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And look, we had fun watching that trailer without the sound, I don't know, a month or so ago. And I was looking forward to the Kraven movie for all the wrong reasons, like the idea of getting to see The Room with a Tommy Wiseau Q&A after, it's not because you think you're going to get great information about the filmmaking process. I was looking forward to Kraven the Hunter for, as I said, all the wrong reasons. But obviously the most upsetting to people will be that Beyond the Spider-Verse, the third in the Spider-Verse film, is just entirely removed from the calendar. And obviously as an animated film, the cast isn't able to record any new dialogue. And the Animation Guild, I don't know. I suppose that they can be rewriting it, but you can't get any actors to record some new stuff. So they're like, we're just taking it off the calendar because we literally don't know when it's coming out. And if I had to guess, that probably hurts Sony a lot because that's like it's the one thing in here where they're like, well, we know that that's going to make some money. That's people are excited for that. It's like the one thing on our calendar. I'm sure that somebody's going to go see Gran Turismo, but I really think that Beyond the Spider-Verse. So you look at this, all of this, Nate, and what does it say to you about what our friends, one of whom we will not identify by name, but our friends over at Sony, what they must be thinking right now?
I mean, I think they're thinking what a lot of the other studios are thinking. I think we're going to see a lot of updated release calendars like this in the next coming weeks and months of studios saying, oh yeah, all of these movies that were going to come out at this time are actually going to come out a year to 6 months later if we announce a date at all. I can't believe they're moving back the Gran Turismo movie. I was so excited for that.
Yeah, look, I think the I don't know what David Harbour fans are called, Harborites, or I'm not
Lily
sure.
Allen.
There you go. Okay, I'm glad I got the bell down. So I think but that's one of those ones that they're like, it's still going to come out on the day it's supposed to. Gran Turismo, which obviously we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about that here, but they're like, oh, but we're doing a couple weekends of sneak previews because they can't have anyone promote it. If it was just the Writers Guild strike, David Harbour could go on a podcast potentially. There are no late night talk shows, but he could go on The View, or I almost called it Regis and Kathy Lee. That show though with Kelly and Mark. You could do press, but now because of the SAG strike, they're like, oh yeah, we really can't promote that movie. So I think that we'll just have to see what they end up doing. And obviously if that strike in particular drags on longer, I think it was smart to not promise us a date for Spider-Verse because they already know that these other ones are probably going to move.
This ad though, right here.
With this lady, this ad for like Barbie or whatever. Yeah. So Michael, I know that you tend to not go to the movies as much. You like to wait until you can watch from the comfort of your mansion, your palatial estate. So I feel like we could have talked you into going out to see Craven because we were going to have so much fun with it. But
maybe.
But now, I mean, that's not until next August. So we're waiting a full like 13 months for it instead of it was going to come out in a couple months. But to Nate's point, I think we're going to see a lot of this. I think movies that they've got the post-production done. There's no even hint of reshoots or even some ADR for like, oh, we need a couple lines of dialogue. You can't do any of that stuff. So I think that a lot of movies are going to be delayed. The next Mission Impossible movie, it wasn't done. They were expecting like, well, we're going to film that in the fall and it'll be ready for next summer. Well, no, I guess it won't because you're not filming it. So I guess we'll have to see. And there's a lot of talks of, like allegedly the Fantastic Four movie is going to start filming this fall. And I'm like, I mean, in what world is that happening? So let us know in the chat what you're most disappointed by and why it isn't Spider-Verse. If it is, I'll be fascinated by anybody who's like, no, I really wanted that. I really wanted that Craven movie. So I saw that, and it's not really surprising for people who only follow the strikes in a cursory way, namely people who don't live in LA or possibly like me don't have someone in their house who is in the Writers Guild and paying for the house is determined by that person working. But the studios are interested in talking to the Writers Guild. So they're going to talk on Wednesday about maybe talking another time. So but here's the thing. That's the most progress that's been made in 3 months. So we'll see how it goes. Until then, the striking continues.
Do
Especially
we actually
in
think that these things are like the WGA and SAG are actually going to return in the same form that they were in?
I mean they've returned, fairly closely to what they are before. Now be careful what you say. You don't want to be Stephen Amell here in giving your opinions. You don't,
I'm not in SAG. So.
Yeah. Which, by the way, why not? How are you not in SAG?
Oh man, I just never got hit by the acting bug, I guess.
Oh, good for you.
For real.
That's what we could all say about. It's like, yeah, say what you want about Michael. He never thought he was an actor, so we can all appreciate that. But Michael, should we talk about one of your favorite actors, Tom Hiddleston? Should we talk about him now?
Oh no,
we have to. We have to talk about
background to just torment me.
I know. Well, you can see my background has a little bit, and Lady Loki is over there next to Michael. So that's not Tom. If you had to rank all the Lokis, by the way, is Alligator Loki your favorite?
Favorite.
Yeah, I just had a hunch. I don't think we'd ever talked about it before, but yeah. So we got, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the Marvel Studios shows on Disney Plus, and we did indeed get a trailer for season 2 of Loki, which is premiering in October. Seems like that's
I somehow
done.
missed that.
Well, it's kind of what we have to look forward to here. We'll have the Marvels after that, but that's what we've got. And I'm gonna take the gamble of playing it without the sound, and we'll see how that goes. We'll talk a little bit about it. So, Michael, I'll let you weigh in. After we see a little of it. Nate, without giving away your list of any of your favorites, which we'll talk about in a little bit, what were your overall feelings on Loki, the season 1 of the series?
It was good. I liked it. Not a perfect or groundbreaking show, but I think it walked a very fine line of like connecting to the other properties and making references and stuff without it totally sacrificing the purpose of the story it was trying to tell.
Right.
I like the performances. I don't know. I think especially with some of the lows that we have seen these Marvel shows go to, I feel fairly confident that it will be enjoyable in some regard. I don't expect it to be groundbreaking, but I like these actors a lot, and I like time travel, alternate universe stuff, and I don't know. This is the one show where I feel like the budget is like you don't see the budget. So, and from the trailer, it still looks like it's this like some nice practical sets and stuff. Like the production quality is there. So, I'm excited for it as much as I can be excited for a Disney Plus Marvel show. At this point.
Yeah, no, exactly. They've kind of tempered our expectations. Some would say just within the last few weeks, they've really done a little bit of a damage to the brand. But yeah, and we see that Ke Kwan will be in there. Of course, Short Round from Temple of Doom, Data from the Goonies, but an Academy Award winner for Everything Everywhere All at Once. So that's very exciting to get a chance to see him again so soon. It's if only they were doing the new Indiana Jones movie like 1 year later, they would have been like, well, we got to figure out a way to get Short Round in now. But excited to see him again. I think it'll be interesting to see how it all fits together. And, it's this season is obviously already done. We saw that scene at the end of Quantumania. It will be very interesting to see if any kind of changes are made in terms of Jonathan Majors after this. But obviously he's in this, so he's Kang in this. But I think that's a topic for another day and for other people way above my pay grade to decide what they do about something like that. But Michael, are you going to begrudgingly watch this show so you can be on our show, or are we going to lose you for 6
I'm
weeks?
gonna do it. I did sit last season out just for political reasons.
Well, and you basically held your breath for 6 weeks, and people were worried about you. So I'm glad you're not going to try that again. Yeah. Cami Egan says that the Loki trailer looks pretty good, but that doesn't mean that the show is going to be like a bunch of the other MCU shows. I just hope they don't waste Ki-hee Kwan like they did with Emilia Clarke. I think they did the best they could with Emilia Clarke, but that might just be me talking there. And every time that Craig Robinson checks in from across the pond, staying up late in the UK, I always want to give a shout out to Craig. Thank you so much. I think that of all the shows that we have gotten, that we've gotten these Disney Plus shows, Loki was the one that, as season 1 was winding down, and it's like, I don't see how they're tidying this up. It's the one that felt like it warranted another season. That doesn't mean we couldn't get more adventures of Moon Knight. That doesn't mean we couldn't see Ms. Marvel on the TV screen again. Depending on how the movie does. I would say the one that feels like the least like you would get another season of it. Well, I guess Secret Invasion, but WandaVision really felt the most self-contained. It was like, it was like one of those tie-in miniseries comics that they'll do when a movie comes out. So this was like, hey, let's explain some stuff for Multiverse of Madness. But I'm excited. Let us know in the chat. And Michael, I'm glad to know that you'll be with us watching the show. I actually hadn't asked you that until right now. So
breaking news.
I know. I need more sound effects than just the bell. I need to have like a whole soundboard.
Yeah.
Full of drops and
but you need an all manual soundboard. So you need like a horn, like a physical horn, and like a tuba. You go ooga,
very Carrot Top. Yeah.
I have. Oh, you're always looking for an excuse to talk about Carrot Top, but I have a friend who does actually have he calls it the wacky horn, and he tries to use it ironically, but it's so much more annoying than my bell. so there's that after all. But the one other thing that we talked about this before it actually happened, and there's a new poster to go with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I kind of like this one where it's the feet of the Guardians, but we see Rocket and Cosmo. As of today, it's on Disney Plus. So there are 2 hours of extras, which believe it or not, I didn't get up at midnight to watch the 2 hours of extras. So I hope to dive into them soon. But I do know a few people who didn't get around to seeing it in the theater. Now you don't have to do that. Michael, you are one of them. And I'll be interested to know what you think, because I really liked it. I mean, it's kind of like the one thing that Marvel has put out, I don't know, maybe since No Way Home, where most people are like, oh yeah, I really like that. Everything else is very divisive. Sorry, what was that?
It's a James Gunn movie and not a MCU movie. I mean, it is still an MCU movie.
There've been a lot of great memes, by the way, that are comparing. Speaking of James Gunn, Peacemaker and Secret Invasion as to which one handled a secret invasion of Earth better. And Peacemaker definitely did a better job with their secret invasion storyline. But that's not this show. I know that might be sacrilege. And Cami Egan has a prediction for season 2 before we move on. I think Loki is going to give Mobius the jet ski he's always wanted. Yeah, when I thought it was going to end at one season, I just assumed the last scene we were going to get is Mobius on the jet ski. But we'll see. We'll see where it all goes. So this is where everybody needs to get out. Everybody in the chat, get out your little yellow legal pad. Start making your lists of what your 3 favorite Disney Plus Marvel Studios shows are, and we're just asking for one least favorite. I want to know if we're going to you can throw in other ones, but you have to actually cast your ballot for one as the worst. So I want to know if we get a clean sweep and a unanimous worst show.
I don't.
Like I said, we're not talking about the Netflix shows. We're not talking about anything for ABC. We're just talking about the Marvel Studios shows on Disney Plus. We're really only talking about live action. What If is part of the conversation, but if it was my worst, I would probably have amended the rules to include it. So Nate, I would like to start with you and ask if you have a thought. I think maybe we'll each do our three, and then we'll come back around and do our least favorite. And hopefully Eric will be with us by that time. But busy guy. He's practically the mayor of Burbank. If you don't know Eric Connor. So Nate, what are your thoughts for what you've found to be your favorite shows?
You said you want like our top three.
Top three, yeah, like. and it doesn't necessarily have to be 3, 2, and 1. They could, if you're like, you know what, they're all about the same in my mind. They're just my 3 favorite.
Sure. I think Loki honestly is probably my favorite one. WandaVision was also very good. Let's see. I had to pull up a list here because I don't remember all of these.
Well, that's all right because I will bring up the list, which it's from Wikipedia, so it's a good list. Yeah. So basically, we're talking about WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki. We can talk about What If somebody really loves it or really hates it. Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, and then the rest is something we'll talk about a little bit later, time permitting, is what's coming next. But WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, and Secret Invasion.
Yeah, I would say Loki, WandaVision, and She-Hulk are my top 3. Honorable mention, What If we're including it. There are some good episodes, but also there are some kind of duds too. So
I liked What If, but the episode that I didn't like, I hated so much is definitely not. It's not in the conversation for me personally. For me, I was actually looking this over. My 3 favorite are the 3 first ones that they did, which were WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Loki. I sort of like things about the other ones. I would honestly say that it's not my worst, but Hawkeye was the one I was kind of disappointed in, and I felt like there was a potential there. I liked the introduction of Kate Bishop, but that one I felt like a little bit let down by. So those are my 3 favorites, and Michael, I know you want to dive into your least favorite, but what are your 3 favorite that you can think of?
Well, 3 would be Werewolf by Night. Are we not counting that?
You can count that. I mean, it's a movie, but absolutely.
I thought it was kind of strange it wasn't in with it because it is part of those properties.
No, I think that's fine. And I actually hadn't thought about it. I thought that was incredibly well done. It was a one-off, but it was Marvel Studios for Disney Plus. So
yeah, that would be my number 3. My second would be The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And my very favorite was WandaVision. It very much got me excited for these Disney Plus shows. In the beginning, I felt kind of like you. I couldn't really see there being another season. But I actually could imagine another season maybe like 5 years from now, sometime when things have changed more and we know what's going on with the next incarnation of Vision. I don't think that the Scarlet Witch is gone forever. I think we're going to see her again. I could see something happening with it, but just given how unpredictable Wanda is. But
well, just to interject, allegedly one of the shows that at least was in development, perhaps still in development, there is a Vision Quest show that is dealing with this white incarnation of the Vision, which, from the comics, it's sort of the less human, more robotic version of him, trying to figure out his humanity. So we may very well get that if it's not that project. I do think that's how that story would continue. I just think the structure of WandaVision in and of itself, you wouldn't get that show. But you're absolutely right. I think that story can continue, and I think it would be more likely to continue on Disney Plus as opposed to in a theater.
Do you guys Am I alone thinking WandaVision? Well, Nate already said his favorite was Loki,
Yeah.
which I just kind of tried to block that out of my brain. But I just feel like WandaVision was so almost groundbreaking in what it did.
Yeah.
I've never really seen anything like it.
And you feel that way despite Agatha, which it didn't.
Yeah, she really. Well, I'm not gonna say that.
You've really grown in the time I've known you.
Yeah,
I think when I
yeah.
first knew you, there was never the words, "No, I shouldn't say that," or
She
"No, I'm not gonna
chaps
say
my
that."
ass. I'll
Yeah.
say that.
But but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's I think in a lot of ways that is probably the best show. I mean, those first 4 episodes, and especially the first 3, where they were each different sitcom incarnations, I thought were so well done. And then actually switching the narrative for the 4th episode, I think that they definitely suffered from the production delay because of COVID and going back in, and I think that they weren't able to quite tell the story that they tried to tell, especially because like Kat Dennings disappears at one point because of the sort of those reasons. But in general, I do think that it was incredibly well done. And if I had to isolate one, perhaps it might be my favorite, but something that'll never be my favorite. Count Eric Connor, who is identified on screen as sweating in Silmar, which that's my favorite Hope and Crosby buddy picture movie that they did, where they traveled around the country. Sweating in Silmar is my favorite, and you look like you're really not dressed for a late morning outdoors in Silmar, Count Eric. How are you, sir?
I am doing fine, thank you. How are you fine, gentle folks doing over there?
And Daniel Drew gives a big woo because he's just so excited to see you. Yeah, exactly. In any case, so we're going around. We haven't talked about least favorites yet. And I know, Eric, you did make a snazzy graphic, which I'll bring up in a little bit. Are you doing product placement for Cherry Coke Zero?
I was inspired by the fabulous Leonard Part 6 with Bill Cosby, where he literally, in one scene, held a Coke bottle in the foreground. So he's talking, and literally the Coke bottle is all you see. So.
Yeah, well, that's where we agree to disagree. Some people are Leonard Part 6 people, and other people like me are Ghost Dad people. But that's all right. We can still move on. So give us your top 3 Marvel Studios shows on Disney Plus, and I can run down the list if you need me to.
No, I actually sent it to myself.
Excellent.
So top 3. Well, 2 of them are pretty easy. Loki, I think, when it's all said and done, and if you don't like it, Michael, it only gives me another reason to like it.
Yeah, Eric's gonna actually use 2 of his 3 votes for Loki just to upset Michael, and I'll let you know, Eric. The 3 of us have all put Loki in our top 3.
No, I did not.
No. Sorry,
okay.
the other 2.
Yeah,
I'm counting Michael. I mean, I'm not counting you, Michael. Okay. And Nate specified it was his number 1. So, but finish your thought. I'm sorry, Eric.
No, please. It's good to know I'm amongst elite brains and Michael. So we're good.
Absolutely.
And then number 2. I mean, it's pretty neck and neck, but I think Loki was a little more consistent. WandaVision. I still think, just because it embraced what it means to be a TV show. It's also, for myself, as someone who teaches an intro to TV course, it's lovely having a show that I literally can prescribe as like, all right, watch this, watch the first few episodes. If you really want almost like a quick taster of what TV was in the 50s, 60s, 70s, etc. It's great, and I thought the acting, it gave Elizabeth Olsen the role she deserved this whole time.
Right.
Now, as far as the 3rd, this is where it gets a little tricky, because I had a lot of things sort of tied in the, I guess you'd call it the B tier. But when it's all said and done, I think maybe Miss Marvel, honestly, because I thought it really knew what it was. It was very different from a bunch of other Marvel properties. That lead girl's terrific, and I was genuinely excited to see more of her. which I think maybe is the biggest take home. Like when I see her pop up in the Marvels trailer, I think it's like she's only going to make that movie better, which I think is a good sign of what that show gave us. So I guess I'd call Miss Marvel my third.
All right. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that show, and I think you summarized it in a great way. That it knew exactly what it was, and it definitely skewed towards a younger storyline because of the age of our lead. But yes, I thought that Montalani was phenomenal in that, and I am excited to see her in the Marvels. Well, I'm just exactly. So we'll each isolate our least favorite now, and we'll go in the same order as before. Nate, which one do you think worked the least for you of all these Disney Plus Marvel Studios series?
I really want to be contentious and say Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but Secret Invasion was so bad that it has to be that one.
It's like all your gripes about Falcon and Winter Soldier, you probably like, if we'd had this conversation 2 months ago, you probably would have felt very strongly. But then just this, we spent the last 6 weeks talking about it. Secret Invasion really just threw such ice cold water on, on any negative feelings about any of these other shows that, I mean, if we were to start dragging in, all 7 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and, multiple seasons of Runaways and Cloak and Dagger and all the Netflix shows, I'd be hard pressed to move Secret Invasion from where I have it. And yes, it is the freshest wound that we're all experiencing, but it was just such a miss on every level. And, just a tremendous disappointment. And look, there have been a few people have popped up and said that they really enjoyed it and that they felt like kind of what Eric was saying about Ms. Marvel, that it knew what it was, but it's clearly never quite knew what it was and never really found its footing. And, the repercussions of it will unfortunately be felt in future projects. But I'm with you, Nate. I just I see red when I start to think about the green of those scrolls. I just get so mad. But Michael, you might perhaps not side with Nate and I. What is your least favorite Marvel Studios show on Disney Plus?
If it weren't for the first episode of Secret Invasion, I might be with you guys. I feel like that was pretty much its biggest redeeming episode. It made the series.
Is it because you hate Colby Smulders and you were so glad to see?
I'm not a fan, but I wouldn't say that I hate her. I was not bothered at all that she had to go. But you've got to know.
So you're basically the meme of Jerry Seinfeld eating popcorn where he says, "Oh, that's a shame," and just keeps eating his popcorn. That's basically you in that scene. Okay.
I guess in that scene, yes, but in general, no.
Sure.
I think it's pretty obvious. My least favorite show is Loki for various multiverse spanning reasons. I can't with Tom Hiddleston. I can't with Sylvie. Owen Wilson. I didn't buy it. Mrs. Minutes was the best thing about that show, in my opinion.
I do agree about that. Do you want to see the trailer for season 2 again? Do you think it might change your opinion if we were?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to help.
I've never liked Loki, and it's not because I think he's just so good at being hateable. It's not that. I want to say it's that. It's just not. I very much disliked Moon Knight, but I can't. I gotta give him the L.
Yeah, look, it's fair. I think that I knew you would feel that way, but also at the
Nate
same
looks
time,
really bothered.
Well, I think that
everyone is entitled to their opinion.
Yeah, so you don't like the. Sorry, I think just to get my thoughts is that Michael, you don't like the character of Loki. You don't like Tom Hiddleston, so his portrayal doesn't help. And then you have all of these other layers and all of these other Lokis. And by the way,
I
even
like Loki in
Cami Egan said put off by the relationship between Loki and Sylvie, but
It's
it
odd.
seemed to be the thing that made the most sense, that Loki would, of course, if he ever fell in love with someone, it would be himself. But anyway, finish your thought, and then
I
I'll
do
circle back to
enjoy
Nate.
him in the comics. Like, I do.
Okay.
And I kind of want to see him being more of a scamp and like kind of like a Puck kind of like figure in all of this, but he's just kind of turned into this anti-hero that
Sure.
I appreciate him more when he's bad and when he's kind of like maniacal, and I don't really feel like we got much of that from him. Like, he was
Yeah.
kind of a villain and then he's an anti-hero. We never really saw him just messing with people just for the fun of it. And that's kind of how I think of Loki.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we really spiced things up this episode. Your least favorite is another of our hosts' most favorite, and yeah, I mean, Nate, I think that of course anyone can have any opinion that they honestly feel, but it's I disagree with it, but at the same time, I do know that that's how Michael feels about Loki.
I mean, for the
So-
record, I do agree with, like, the MCU Loki is very much not the Marvel Comics
Very
Loki.
tame.
But also, so is every other MCU character. Like we just got Secret Invasion. Like, that's Nick Fury. That's that's Howling Commando's Nick Fury. Like, what MCU character? Like, even Iron Man. Like, they start this tiny thread about him dealing with his alcoholism, and then they just kind of like abandon it when that's like a major plot point for his character in the comics. Like, there's just unfortunately going to be a dulling of the blade of a lot of these characters, especially too because we're coming in later. Same with how they do these like huge power jumps. It's the same with the character turns. Like, in the comics, in a lot of the larger crossover events, Loki kind of becomes this like, well, the universe is ending, so I guess I'll help you, brother. And he becomes this kind of anti-hero figure. And then, Kevin Feige comes along and he's like, that's cool, let's do that. And it's like, well, Kevin, we don't have the 50 years prior of the battling between Loki and Thor to like establish that when this happens, like, holy crap, that's a big deal. It just becomes like, oh yeah, he was like kind of bad once. He worked for Thanos, like, kinda, and then Thanos killed him, and then now he's like a time cop guy. I get that part. That totally makes sense to me. I just really like Loki because I like endings, and I felt like that show was consistent in its pacing throughout the establishment of the story and the mystery, and then the reveals as they came to me felt satisfying, and the ending simultaneously actually wrapped up some of the stuff from that season, while also not only setting up another season of the show, but establish the next big villain of the arc for the next phase. That's, for me, was the big part about that show that I really liked. And the only reason why I like it over WandaVision is I love those first 4 episodes of WandaVision, but I feel like the back half of WandaVision is not nearly as polished as the front half. That meme of the horse with like the perfectly drawn horse at the front and then the kind of scribbles at the end, like, to me, that was WandaVision. It was good. It was really good. It was much better than anything else they've done. And a lot of it felt super comic booky, which was so awesome. But to me, the ending of that show is like, just it's kind of like a fumbling of a really good hand, and so that's the only reason why I would put Loki above it. Other than that, I agree that
Yeah.
WandaVision is fantastic.
It did nail the landing. I agree. I think that's where, very similar, I put Loki above WandaVision for that season.
So, and by the way, Craig commented on when Nate was thinking of possibly ranking Falcon and Winter Soldier as the worst. Craig Robinson said, "Ouch! You mean Falcon and the Winter Soldier's banker scene didn't elevate it enough?" And don't worry, we'll focus on the banker. But that does bring us to Eric and his least favorite. And is it the banker? Is it the butcher? Is it the candlestick maker? I don't know. Let us know.
Well, first of all, let me just remind you how wonderful Michael Shirley was in Loki. One of the most
Forgot about
powerful
that.
and I would dare say most attractive variants, Michael and Shirley. Although this one might be the most comic book, right? Of course, for our video audience, you see it. For our radio audience, sorry, go to YouTube. And then, of course, me and my beard taking pole position with the gator. So, Nate, I will gladly make one for you. You were not part of the squad back then, but I will be happy to add you to my long list of mediocre photoshopping.
Please.
So
It would be an honor.
So
just in time for season 2, yeah, and
just in time
you
for
can
Hanukkah.
you can resend me all those for season 2, and then we'll get a new one for Nate.
Oh,
yeah.
dude, it's only going to get more so. So hey there,
Eric's
why
like
is
a playground.
why is Russell from the movie Up standing behind you and coming up? Is
some things you don't want the answer to.
Oh my
gosh! The lowest ranked easy. Secret Invasion. Falcon and Winter Soldier were close, and I'd say the Banker brought it closer to the bottom and almost brought it up to the top. But in the end of it all, Secret Invasion, for the reasons we I feel like all of us were in boot camp together now because we went through something and something that maybe made us stronger, which is, and I agree, Michael, it's funny, you and I completely lined up on that first episode. I really was into it. And then I wasn't, and then I really wasn't, and then I was angry. And I can't believe they fumbled the ball on that one. It's Marvel really, they gotta do one of their famous retreats and maybe stay away for a while, because they've got some explaining to do, but they keep seeming to miss the thing that you change a costume, you change some details of a character, fine, story, emotion, that's the stuff that matters, and they for a while they were quite great at that. But it's interesting. Pixar and Marvel, I think, both have had the same issue, which is they're sort of losing the heart. And that's really tough to see, especially when you have such remarkable actors as Secret Invasion had. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, not to veer off the one of the big problems with Pixar is that how many times did they think they can tell the same story? My kids enjoyed Elemental, and I thought it was fun, but it's like it's the same story that they've told in like 3 different Pixar movies. It's like, oh, I don't want my dad to be disappointed in me. That level. But interestingly enough, what you're talking about, Eric, ties into an article that you sent me from Variety, because here on the show, all we ever do is look at the trades. But the point of it was Secret Invasion was a mess. But Marvel had already lost its way, and I mean, if you go by public opinion, Thor: Love and Thunder was seen as a miss, as was Ant-Man, and then but of course that article ignores the tremendous success of Guardians. But I understand their point. They're definitely in a bit of trouble. It's kind of what we all thought might happen after Endgame, after you build to something like that, and what are you going to actually do next? And their answer is Kang, but there's also a lot of other stuff. They didn't just focus on Kang, so there's been a lot of other things. So in any case, I think that there's I think that the Marvels is going to be a fairly I don't want to say it's make or break, but boy, that movie has to really surprise people and impress them. I mean,
I worry that
you go back,
don't care about those characters enough.
Yeah, I'm not going to go see that movie in the theaters.
Well, especially when that you'll be able to see it on Disney Plus, and within what was it? So like 3 months after Guardians. So at the very most,
everybody says, "Oh my God, this movie was so good! I can't believe how good it was. It was so good." I'm probably not even going to watch it on Disney Plus. I still have not seen Captain Marvel all the way through. That's not true. I've seen parts of it, but I just don't care about Carol Danvers. I do care about Monica Rambeau. She is cool, but I am skeptical about how much her character actually is going to be like a character in the movie and not just like a side piece. And then also, Now, coming off of Secret Invasion, I'm much less excited that Samuel L. Jackson is in the movie and that there's going to be some alien scroll sword stuff, because I have zero confidence in any of that. So, yeah.
Unless he's fat Samuel N. Jackson, in which case, yes. I mean, I want the out of shape, and it doesn't matter how long he's up there. Gravity still affects him badly because he's got bad knees and a bad hip. I want to see myself up there, is in other words what I'm saying.
If that happens and they just like retcon that all of Secret Invasion didn't happen, then I will go see the movie. Absolutely.
That would actually be great if he like wakes up in the first scene, even before the credits. You know, he's just like, "Oh my god, I had the most terrible nightmare," and they'll be like, "Yeah, don't worry, Sam. I mean, not Sam. Don't worry, Nick. None of that happened." And Maria Hill comes in and says, "Like, I don't know what you're talking about. None of that stuff happened."
It's not too late to film that.
Well, if SAG stays on strike, it is too late to film that.
Well,
but, let's hope that by November they can.
They've got enough footage to do AI Sam Jackson.
I love when somebody's usually even keel with kind of trying to find the best in everything. They come out with a blatant opinion like Kama Egan. Love and Thunder was hot garbage. I completely disagree, but I love that she feels that way.
I love the passion.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fun.
Yeah. I mean, definitely one too many times with the goats joke. But yeah, I think that it was all right. I don't know. I had fun, and not just because I went with my pal Eric to go see it at the old cinema, but yeah, I think we'll see what everybody feels. I know that a few of you were giving some of your rankings of favorite series, so I'll try and find a couple of those. But Daniel Drew, if we get Kid Loki and whatever the Young Heroes team, whatever they're going to call it, there are a few different options for that. Maybe they'll have the kind of Loki characterization that we know from the comics. That could certainly be interesting if they actually do it. And I did love this from Daniel Drew, who said that Secret Invasion gets 2 bottom spots for me. So it's like, it's so bad that he needs to. And Kama Egan letting us know what she didn't like. Her least favorites were Hawkeye, Secret Invasion, and Moon Knight. Hawkeye, I said earlier before Eric popped in that I was probably the most disappointed by it because I just felt like we're going to, if you told me like, well, we're going to get the Kingpin in a Hawkeye series that has Jeremy Renner in it, and we're going to introduce the new one. I'm like, oh, all that should add up, and and Florence Pugh was in that series, but it didn't quite, it did not quite work.
I liked Hawkeye. I'm surprised to hear that so many people didn't like it that much.
I was just, I mean, it's not even close to my least favorite. It was just, I was disappointed because I felt
the Kingpin thing was definitely, they really need, like, I understand it's very hard now to keep any type of surprises, so they often lean into just promo and just make it marketing instead. But like, that would have been so much cooler if it just like happened and it was like, oh crap, it's D'Onofrio, it's Kingpin, like, instead of like this buildup of like, oh, he's gonna be there, and then he just is like there, and then he leaves, and then it's like, well, that's what was that for?
And look, Daniel feels pretty strongly. So he's crammed like 5 into his top 3. He's got Ms. Marvel, WandaVision tied for 3rd, are Loki and Hawkeye. That's his top 3. So that's all right though. That's the fun of ranking these things. And I knew Daniel would put Ms. Marvel first, and I'm glad that he wasn't let down by that show. And I know he'll be excited to see the Marvels. Anyway, so we, what we're getting the rest of the year for Disney Plus Marvel Studios shows are, of course, Loki, and they're going to dump Echo all at once in November. So basically right after that. So that'll certainly be interesting. And then allegedly next year we'll have Ironheart, Agatha, Daredevil Born Again, and What If season 2. I would be shocked if all those shows came out next year. I think that they'll all still happen. I think Echo is something that they finished. So, they didn't, Bob Iger didn't get to come in and be like, well, get rid of that. It's done. So they're just going to burn it off right before Christmas. And then I think we'll get all those other shows, but I do not think we're going to get them all in 2024. So
Not at all.
Michael, would you say you're least excited of the shows that I just rattled off? Are you least excited for Agatha, or are you least excited for Loki season 2?
Oh, way less excited for Loki season 2. That's like a chore.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the idea of what other characters might be in the Agatha show, whatever they've renamed it again to, or
Yeah.
But I'm really excited for Ironheart. I love that character, and I'm hope they don't mess it up.
I think that story works if you don't cut corners the way Secret Invasion did. Like if she's got really cool armor, and obviously Black Panther 2 ends with she doesn't get to keep Shuri's armor, which is great. So we'll watch her basically start over. I think that story could be good, but I think I'm probably, and I don't have the feelings about Catherine Hahn that Michael does. And I also don't have the feelings that Eric does, but we can't say those out loud. But that's far and away, I'm the least excited for that show. I thought it was a fun little twist. I liked the theme song. I'm like, I'm not excited for that show. I'm gonna watch it, but I'm not that excited for it. What are you thinking, Michael? I mean, sorry, what are you thinking, Nate? We already know what Michael thinks. What do you feel of the ones I just rattled off? Well, we try to know. What do you think, Nate? Of all the things I rattled off, what do you feel like? I hope I don't have to watch 6 hours of that specific show. It could be any of them. I know one that you're not excited about, but
I mean,
I'll
honestly,
let you pick.
with the exception of Loki season 2, I'm not really excited for any of them. Other than that, I'm excited for X-Men 97.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm about to give up on the MCU TV shows. They're just not that good. There's just no direction. Like it worked in the beginning because we were working towards something, right? Some singular thing. And now there's just so many. There's like Thunderbolt stuff, but then they're also like setting up for Young Avengers, and then they're also setting up for Kang, and then there's also White Vision, who we never see again. And now there's like Super Scroll guy, who's the most like. There's all these different things, and none of them like really connect, and none of them really develop anything, and they all just feel like super half baked. And I'm just tired. Like. I've gone back to reading more comics again, and I find it so much more enjoyable. Just like let a writer come up with a story and execute the story, and like let them just do that, and then pick one thing you want to do. If they had just made all of these shows set up the new Young Avengers and then led into like a movie for that, or even just kept it to a show thing, like if there was one thing that kept them all kind of together, I think it would be better, instead of them all going in different ways and be like, this one is connected kind of also, but we're never gonna circle back to that, except now it's been 6 years and all of a sudden we're seeing like the Thunderbolt stuff again, or we're seeing like it's just like I don't care about the Flag Smasher, what's his name, Secret Agent. Like I don't care about that dude anymore. Like it's been so long since Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out, and then they're about to make a movie, and it's like you fumbled the ball. You had it. Like I didn't even like Falcon and the Winter Soldier that much, but at least it carried some momentum from the movies. It was like, okay, well, what's going to happen to the Mantle now that Cap's gone? And
right.
There was some through line, and then how many years later has it been, and we have gotten no continuance of that story, of that plot thread.
So the takeaway for Disney should be that they've fumbled things so much that they've inspired someone who would want to enjoy these shows to turn off their television and do the unthinkable: read. And I don't think Disney wants to hear that, except of course they own Marvel, so they're okay with it. But that's the point. It's like, yeah, I would rather read than watch television. They're like, oh wait, that's not why we're
not good.
Craig has a great point. The pandemic made us thirsty for any content. Helped at the start.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean the idea. I mean, WandaVision definitely came along at the perfect time. But what about you, Eric? As we wind down here, of all the things I rattled off, what are you feeling like? It's hard to get excited about that.
I agreed on the whole COVID thing. Like, I mean, my wife and I were watching Canadian shows, for God's sakes, during 2020. Like, we were hungry for anything.
What the hell is that all about?
and if none of which featured a Mountie, so I mean we were really desperate.
Wait, so did you like me
No
do an
due north.
entire rewatch? Did you like me do an entire rewatch of Degrassi: The Next Generation? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, we would
Oh.
have. Instead, we went with Slings and Arrows, which, by the way, I also recommend. If you don't need a superhero to make you happy, Slings and Arrows is a fabulous show. That all being
I
said,
mean, look, some of us just want to see Drake go around to high school in a wheelchair. All right, so some of us want to see different things, but that's fine.
I've seen that though.
Fair.
That's been around for a while. So I think with this new batch of shows, I think I'm totally lined up with you guys about Ironheart. I think it was a good introduction to the character in Wakanda. Good actor, fun, a different take on the other superheroes, and I think one that could really fit nicely into a TV mold. So I think that's the one that seems the most ready-made for success of the new batch of TV shows. I am excited for the Marvels, though. I will admit, I think that trailer looks fun in the way like the Miss Marvel teaser looked fun. I think it is one I think might hit because it is it's a big superhero story, but not dominated by a bunch of dudes. So I think it's going to bring in an audience like Captain Marvel did that might otherwise not necessarily rush over to the theater to see a movie like this. But that being said, Nate, you totally hit it. Like, if you think about the first few phases, right? We kind of start at different. I'm trying to do this by. It's not going to work. We start with different corners of the universes, if you will, within Marvel, and they all got closer together. Thus, we could get the Avengers. And anytime they introduced a new element, you always could see the line between whatever that was and then the world that we had already established in Marvel. So it's a very smart build-up to, of course, Avengers Endgame, where all of a sudden you have several dozen Marvel characters, and that somehow we were able to follow it all. But I think this recent wave, I mean, I think, and I apologize because I've said this before, but the thing that just does not make sense is why they didn't use Loki better to sort of explain this multiverse stuff they're doing everywhere. Like, it feels like it's already there. They already produced a show that went over well, that people saw. And I understand they sort of try to keep their TV and film worlds separate, but it seems like that's a miss because it actually ties together things. And instead, it's like, well, this one has a multiverse problem, and so does this one, and this one. And as a result, we're just kind of left with, like, confusion. Like, all these things they've introduced, all these disparate elements. Great point on the timing of Thunderbolts, because that's a movie I think a few of us would have been pretty excited about circa 5 years ago. But the idea of Ghost from Ant-Man 2, like, no one remembers Ant-Man 2. Nobody remembers Ghost from Ant-Man 2. And I know her power showed up for a second in the last episode of Secret Invasion, but I think that's one that's like, if you're going to do a deep track, at least do a deep track people are still singing. This is one that no one was clamoring for that character. Or, what's it, Smasher? Adam, what's it called?
Well, he's U.S. agent is John Walker. Yeah.
No, I'm so sorry. The one
you're talking about the villain.
Sorry. No, Black Widow's villainess.
Taskmaster.
Oh,
Taskmaster. Yeah,
No.
yeah. Same thing. Like, that's Marvel's least popular film. So why don't they take the villain who never spoke in that?
Well, I mean,
and put her.
If you're going to say Marvel's least popular film, I'm going to have to correct you and remind you of Eternals. I think you can't characterize anything as least popular. You can split down the middle for box office and all that. I think it's not that Black Widow is the most popular. You can't look at the pure box office for Black Widow because it came out in the summer of 2021 when most people were still not going to the movies.
But I don't think anyone's out there saying, "Hey, what's Taskmaster up to?" Like,
no, not even the actor who portrayed Taskmaster wants to know when she gets to put the suit back on. A couple final thoughts before we go. Kemi Egan, the connectivity isn't consistent like it was in the Infinity Saga, and there are very few, if any, surprises like character or villain teases or introductions. And Craig responds to this: "You mean She-Hulk's Madison didn't hit the mark for you, Cammy?" And I hadn't thought about Madison since we did that show, so I'm still waiting for the Madison.
If you tell me she's in the Thunderbolts, I'm there opening night.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's fun to theorize about this stuff and to take stock after Secret Invasion as to where we sit with all of it. And I think even Michael putting a different show as his least favorite. It's really nobody seems to be happy on this show with Secret Invasion, but I always welcome those. I've in passing read people posting comments here and there. There are people who enjoyed it. Even they are a lot of they've got a lot of, except for blah, blah, blah. But in general, if anybody wants to tell us how they were able to enjoy that show, help me become a better person and being able to have that kind of love in my heart for the less fortunate series out there. Speaking of less fortunate productions, next week on this show, I swear to you, we're finally doing it. Eric and I will just commit to us. We'll see if anybody else is able to join us. But Eric and I will watch Jennifer Garner's Elektra for the first time. And we will talk about it. We'll also talk about whatever news is going on
DVD. Right?
Yes.
Michael,
it's full screen, standard definition. I don't think it's pan and scan, but I kind of hope it was. I wish it had the side letterbox, from when it's it's like Welcome Back, Kotter, when it's so old that it's got the letterbox on the side because the image was only formatted to that. But so if you would like to join us in the chat for that, please rewatch Elektra. I was under the impression it was on Disney Plus, but Michael brought to my attention that it is not. There's some things that they're like, no, we don't need to, we don't need to worry about it.
Whoa.
I thought it was, but I think the Ben Affleck Daredevil is there.
It used to be. It's not anymore.
Yeah, okay. It did used to be there, right, Nate? I thought I had seen that it was there. Yeah. So, but that's all right. Let's put aside time to read all the messages from people who complained to Disney Plus that Elektra's not there. But we will indeed do that for our next show, which will be at the usual time of Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. Even though Michael will be sitting that one out, he wants us to have the joy of Elektra without him. And I love that Eric now just knows it's so much faster for him to bring up his images on his phone and hold them up to the camera. Because if you text me that you just sent me something, I have to use my my America Online dial-up and then download it, and it takes forever. However, that is all the time we have for this week. So please join us next week, where we will try to answer the question of who is Elektra, and we'll go from there. But in the meantime, if you want to continue the conversation with any of our friends here on the show, Nate, where can people find you?
Everywhere. Dog Like Nate with 2 G's.
And that includes on X. And Michael, where can you be found on X and everywhere else?
Michael X Shirley on X and everywhere else at I Hate Michael Shirley.
And Eric, where can you be found other than outside of some kind of group home in Sylmar?
Oh, you know how close you are. Yes, you can say welcome back to this Connor over at Count Eric Connor and the newly formed X and the old formed Instagram. I'd love to say hello, so please do say hi.
And Cami Egan wants to know if your sweat hogs are Christian, Michael, Nate, and Jeff. So you can decide who the sweat hogs are. I would like to nominate myself for Barbarino, but we will save important conversations like that for next time. That's all the time we have for now. We'll see you next time. And as the great Stan Lee would say, Excel!